Stop being used. The price of being too kind. Raghav had always been known as the nice guy. Not just nice in a normal way, but the kind of person who would say yes before even knowing what he was agreeing to. He was the one who apologized even when he had done nothing wrong. The one who sacrificed his time, his energy, and sometimes even his self-respect just to avoid disappointing someone. For a long time, people loved him for it, or at least that's what he believed. Raghav grew up in a small town where kindness was considered the greatest virtue. His mother often told him to help others no matter what, and his father believed that a good heart would always be rewarded. Raghav carried these lessons with him everywhere he went, shaping the way he interacted with the world. In school, he helped classmates with their homework, even when his own assignments remained unfinished. In college, he lent money to friends, even when he barely had enough for himself. At work, he volunteered for extra responsibilities, staying late into the night while others went home on time. At first, it felt wonderful. People appreciated him. They smiled at him and told him how dependable he was. They said they were lucky to have him. Slowly, Raghav began to believe that his worth was measured by how much he could do for others. But over time, something began to change. The same people who once asked for help started expecting it. Favors were no longer requests, they became assumptions. Messages like, "Raghav, can you handle this task for me?" or "Raghav, can you stay late today?" became a regular part of his life. Friends frequently borrowed money with promises to return it soon, promises that were often forgotten, and every single time, Raghav said yes. He said yes even when he was exhausted, even when he was overwhelmed, and even when he desperately wanted to say no. Deep down, he feared that if he ever refused, people would stop liking him. The thought of disappointing others frightened him more than the burden of sacrificing himself. One night, Raghav sat alone in his apartment, staring at his phone. A message popped up from a colleague asking him to complete an entire report because they were out enjoying the evening with friends. It was already late. Raghav hadn't eaten dinner, and he still had his own work left to finish. For the first time in years, he paused. He looked at the message for a long moment. Something inside him resisted. A quiet voice told him that this wasn't right, but as always, he ignored that voice and typed, "Sure, no problem." The moment he sent the message, he didn't feel proud or helpful. He simply felt tired. As days passed, that tiredness turned into something heavier. Raghav began noticing things he had never paid attention to before. People only reached out when they needed something. Conversations revolved around favors. Nobody asked how he was doing or whether he needed help. Then one day, Raghav fell seriously ill. He had a high fever, body aches, and complete exhaustion. He informed his workplace that he wouldn't be able to come in. For the first time, he expected someone to check on him. He hoped for a simple message asking if he was okay, but his phone remained silent. Hours passed, then an entire day. Finally, a message appeared. With a glimmer of hope, Raghav opened it. Instead of concern, it read, "Hey, can you send me that file? I need it urgently." In that quiet moment, something inside him shifted. Raghav realized that people didn't value him for who he was. They valued him for what he could do for them. That night, he stood in front of the mirror and reflected on his life. He asked himself a simple question. When was the last time he said no? He couldn't remember. Then he wondered when he had last chosen himself. There was no answer. Finally, he confronted the hardest question of all. Was he truly kind, or was he simply afraid? Deep down, he knew the truth. He wasn't just kind. He was afraid of rejection, afraid of conflict, and afraid of being alone. In his attempt to keep everyone happy, he had slowly lost himself. The next day, a friend called and asked him to spend the entire weekend helping with shifting. Raghav felt the familiar pressure and the instinctive urge to say yes. But this time, he paused, took a deep breath and said, "I'm sorry. I can't this weekend." There was a brief silence on the other end of the call. Then his friend simply replied, "Okay," and the call ended. Raghav stood still, surprised by how simple it had been. His heart raced as he waited for guilt to overwhelm him, but instead, he felt something he hadn't experienced in years: relief. That small moment marked the beginning of a profound transformation. Gradually, Raghav started saying no more often. He did so politely and honestly, without anger or resentment. As he began setting boundaries, reactions from others soon followed. Some people told him that he had changed, while others accused him of becoming selfish. A few even distanced themselves from his life. It hurt to realize that certain relationships had been sustained only by his willingness to give. Yet, this realization also brought clarity. The people who walked away were never truly there for him. They were there for the benefits his kindness provided. With time, Raghav began rebuilding his life. He stopped responding to messages late at night and avoided overcommitting himself. He started prioritizing his own needs and well-being. Initially, these changes felt uncomfortable and unfamiliar, but gradually they became natural. He rediscovered parts of himself that he had long neglected. He resumed hobbies he once loved, spent time alone without feeling guilty, and began taking better care of his physical and mental health. For the first time in years, he experienced a deep sense of peace. Raghav did not stop being kind. Instead, he learned how to practice kindness without harming himself. He continued to help others when he genuinely could, but no longer at the expense of his own well-being. He listened with empathy, but stopped carrying burdens that were not his to bear. His kindness became balanced and rooted in self-respect. As this transformation unfolded, something beautiful happened. New people entered his life, individuals who respected his boundaries and valued him for who he truly was. He realized that the right people never require you to sacrifice yourself to maintain their presence in your life. One evening, while watching a serene sunset, Raghav reflected on his journey. He thought about all the times he had said yes when he wanted to say no, all the moments he had placed others before himself, and all the instances when he had felt invisible. This time, he smiled. He finally understood a truth that many people learn too late. Kindness is not a weakness, but being kind without boundaries can become one. Helping others should never mean losing yourself. Saying no does not make you selfish. It signifies self-respect. If you see yourself in Raghav's story, if you are always the one giving, adjusting, and sacrificing, take a moment to ask yourself a simple question. Who is taking care of you? You cannot pour from an empty cup, and the world does not always reward silent sacrifices. Often, it simply becomes accustomed to them. So be kind, but also be strong. Be helpful, but establish limits. Because the moment you start respecting yourself, the world learns how to treat you. Moral of the story. Kindness is a strength, but without boundaries, it can become a weakness. Respecting yourself teaches others how to treat you.